My name is Colleen. Sitting in my new apartment, looking out at the railroad tracks, I'm still in awe of how my life has changed. It all started with a simple text message that shattered the illusion of my family. It was a late night shift at the logistics center where I work as a night shift freight coordinator. I was in the middle of rerouting some delayed shipments and approving automatic payments on my phone when the family group chat lit up. My father, Henry, sent a cold message, "Don't contact us. Don't come around. You're on your own now." Just like that, no warning, no explanation. 3 seconds later, my mother, Amelia, gave a thumbs up, and my younger sister, Lily, added a heart emoji. I looked down at the payment confirmations on my screen: electricity, internet, phone bills, my sister's car insurance, and my mother's medication refills, all linked to my account. They were kicking me out of the family from a house that I'd been keeping running with my hard-earned money. I typed back, "Great. I'll cancel the auto payments first thing tomorrow." My mother immediately sent a voice note scolding me, saying I was being nasty and that my father was upset. Lily told me to stop being dramatic, and Henry simply dared me to do it. That was the moment something inside me died. I realized they thought I needed their approval more than they needed my money. They'd mistaken my loyalty for weakness, my silence for agreement, and my help for an endless obligation. I got home after 3 a.m. and opened the spreadsheet I'd been avoiding. I've always been good with numbers, which is why my family had gradually turned me into their financial lifeline. At first, it seemed like normal family help. Henry had a knee injury and said he needed a few months to get back on his feet. Amelia said it made sense to keep the phone plan in my name because I got a better corporate rate. Lily promised her fashion design course would pay off and asked me to cover one semester's tuition. But then, it became a never-ending stream of bills. The water bill because Henry forgot to pay. The internet because Amelia needed it for her online courses. Grocery deliveries when Lily was between jobs. And then, the car insurance because Henry said he couldn't do his side jobs without it. I kept telling myself I was keeping the family stable, but in reality, I was pouring my paycheck into a bottomless pit. As I scrolled through the spreadsheet, I saw month after month of my money going out. I'd spent weekends at work, skipped holidays, and eaten vending machine snacks while they called me selfish if I was a few minutes late replying to a text. At 3:41 a.m. I finally totaled it up. In 31 months, I'd spent $68,214.17 to keep their lives afloat. I couldn't believe the number. It was enough for a down payment on a house, enough to clear my student loans. That's when I noticed something strange. The property tax reminder for the house was addressed to the Thompson Family Trust. Thompson was my mother's maiden name, and my grandfather, George Thompson, was the head of the trust. A memory came back to me. A year ago, Grandpa George had casually asked if they were still telling people they'd bought the house from him. I'd laughed, thinking he was joking. But now, I dug through my emails and found a county notice that revealed the truth. The house wasn't in my father's name at all. The man who'd just cut me off didn't even own the house he was living in. I felt a mix of shock and anger. I'd been subsidizing their false image of a well-off family while I was struggling. I printed out all the statements, highlighted the recurring payments, and made a list of things to cancel. I drove to Grandpa George's place before dawn. He lived in a cozy cottage on the outskirts of the city. When I pulled into the driveway, he was outside, sipping coffee as if he'd been expecting me. He didn't ask me why I was there. He just opened the door and said, "Bring in the papers." I laid everything out on the kitchen table and told him the whole story. He listened silently, then went to his study and came back with a file box labeled Thompson House. Inside were tax notices, trust documents, and unsigned payment agreements. He explained that he'd let Henry and Amelia move in with the understanding that they'd either buy the house gradually or pay rent once they were stable. But they'd done neither. Henry had missed meetings, and Amelia would cry whenever money was mentioned. Grandpa had stopped pushing because Amelia kept saying they were close to getting back on their feet. He looked at my spreadsheet and said, "You've been underwriting his pride." It was a hard truth, but it was true. Every time I paid a bill to avoid an argument, I was enabling their lies. Grandpa also told me that Lily had listed his address as a reference on a credit application, and he'd heard through the family grapevine that Henry was telling people I helped because I had no real expenses. I was stunned. I'd been supporting them while they made me look like a freeloader. Grandpa didn't comfort me, he empowered me. He walked me through the trust documents, printed a copy of the deed, and showed me the legal notice he could send if they didn't cooperate. He said, "Don't go there and plead for understanding. People who profit from your silence will call your truth cruel. If you're done, be clear about it." He advised me to record a video, list all the automatic payments and their cancellation dates, and send it to the family with the spreadsheet. As for the house, he said it was under his authority, not Henry's ego. I took his advice. Before my next shift, I parked outside the logistics center, set up my phone, and recorded a 5-minute video. I was still in my work uniform, with dark circles under my eyes and no makeup. I started, "Since Dad says I'm on my own now, this is what it means." I then shared the spreadsheet and listed each expense, the average monthly electricity bill of $286 that I'd paid for 26 months, the gas bill averaging $93, the water and trash bill of $121, the family phone plan for 3 lines at $247, Lily's car insurance at $188, her tuition auto debit of $375, my mother's pharmacy refills, the grocery delivery account that averaged $510 a month last year, and other expenses like internet streaming and emergency repairs. I sent the video to the family group chat with the subject line, "Since I'm on my own now." For 15 seconds, there was silence. Then, the phone exploded with messages. Henry called me an ungrateful brat. Amelia begged me not to do anything rash. Lily said sending spreadsheets was insane. They sent voice notes, with Amelia crying and Henry shouting. I ignored them and started canceling all the accounts. By 11 a.m., the effects were already showing. Henry texted furiously because his car insurance had lapsed, and he couldn't take a side job. Lily called from an unknown number because she couldn't access her design course portal after the missed payment. Amelia left a message whining about not being able to use the pharmacy account. During my lunch break, I did something I'd been putting off for years. I paid the application fee for a 1-bedroom apartment near work, enrolled in a management training program at my company, and moved some of my direct deposit into a savings account I named Peace. As the day went on, the family group chat went from insults to panic. Henry finally texted, "You made your point. Turn it back on." That's when I knew I'd finally gotten through to them. But the worst was yet to come. 2 days later, I got a Facebook message from a woman who'd bought a silver locket I'd given to Amelia after her surgery. The locket had an engraving that read, "To Mom, love, Colleen." Then, I got messages from people who'd bought my old camera and a jewelry box that I'd left at the family house. They were selling my personal belongings for cash. Later that afternoon, my cousin, Ethan, sent me screenshots from a private family group chat called Protect Mom and Dad. In it, Lily said I'd gone crazy because of work. Amelia suggested telling people I was drinking too much to explain my actions. One aunt proposed collecting donations at church to cover the bills I'd stopped paying. Henry warned everyone not to talk to me directly because I'd twist things. And Amelia wrote that if they made it about family loyalty, I'd look heartless. I was heartbroken. I paced my apartment and cried once. But then, I decided to take action. I sent an email to the relatives who were involved, attaching the original text from Henry, the first page of the ledger, photos of the sold items, and the screenshots from the private chat. I wrote a short message saying they were free to help my family if they wanted, but I asked them to do it with the truth. I'd covered their expenses for nearly 3 years, and after being told to stay away, I'd stopped. I wouldn't argue publicly, I was just presenting the facts. By evening, the mood had changed. One aunt who'd called me selfish the day before apologized. Ethan told me the church leadership had declined to collect donations once they understood the situation. A cousin admitted that Henry had asked him for a loan and claimed the utility issue was a bank error. The next week was tough. I still missed the family I thought I had. I'd reach for my phone to tell Amelia about a funny coworker or ask Lily about a dress she'd designed. But the consequences were also getting louder. Grandpa George told me the trust attorney was ready to issue a formal notice if Henry kept pretending the house was his. The phone company said the line transfer had failed because they hadn't provided proof of income. The insurance company sent a lapse letter, and the utility department informed me someone had tried to reauthorize my old debit card. One evening, I went to the family house to get my remaining boxes. I wasn't alone. Grandpa George drove me in his truck and parked at the curb. When I stepped onto the porch, Lily opened the door with her phone out, ready to record. "Say hi to the internet, Colleen," she said smugly. I walked past her and into the house. Henry was in the living room, pretending to be unfazed, and Amelia was in the recliner, looking like a victim. I picked up the boxes with my name on them and noticed that half of my things were gone. "Where's my winter coat?" I asked. Lily shrugged and said I should have visited more. Henry scoffed and said I was being dramatic. I placed 3 envelopes on the dining table. One was a notice confirming the removal of my payment authorizations, one was an inventory of the sold and missing items, and one was a meeting notice from Grandpa George for Saturday at 10 a.m. regarding the house. Henry refused to touch the papers and said it was his house. I looked at him and said, "The old man still owns the deed." For the first time, he showed a hint of doubt. Amelia started crying, and Lily lowered her phone. I left the house with my boxes. In the truck, Grandpa George handed me a folder from the lawyer. It contained a repayment agreement. If they wanted 30 days in the house instead of 10, they had to sign the agreement, stop using my name to get money or sympathy, and cooperate with the trust transfer. That night, I accepted a promotion I'd delayed for 18 months. I signed the offer letter and realized that I'd finally taken control of my life. On Saturday, the meeting was held at Grandpa George's office. Henry, Amelia, and Lily looked exhausted. Grandpa started by stating the facts about the house. It was still under the Thompson family trust, and they had no valid claim to it. I then spoke. I told them about the $68,214.17 I'd spent over 31 months to support them. I said I'd believed I was helping the family, but after they'd cut me off, I'd taken them at their word. Lily started crying before I even finished. I slid the repayment agreement towards them. I said they had 30 days to vacate the house, sign the agreement for monthly restitution, and stop using my name to get help. If they continued spreading false statements, all the evidence in the room would be sent to everyone they'd misled. Henry slapped the table and said I was trying to destroy the family. I looked him in the eye and said, I stopped financing a family that only worked when I was being used. Amelia started sobbing, asking where they were supposed to go. I told her I didn't know, just like they hadn't known when they'd dumped their problems on me. Lily admitted she'd thought Henry was bluffing. I reminded her of the things she'd sold. Walter told Henry he'd had years to make things right but had taken advantage of my help. Amelia signed the agreement first, followed by Lily. Henry stared at the paper for a long time but finally signed. They left without a word. 30 days later, the house was emptied and leased to a nice family. Henry got a real job, Amelia found a part-time job at a beauty salon, and Lily finished her course with loans and part-time work. And I moved into my new apartment, bought a new couch, and rebuilt my savings. The lesson I've learned is simple: not everyone who shares your blood deserves your unlimited sacrifice. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for a toxic family is to let them face the consequences. The day Henry told me I was on my own, he thought he was punishing me, but he actually set me free.